Hello everyone, William Shazer here, and today I'll be discussing briefly some of the literary elements from George Orwell's 1984. I'll be using some of the terms from our vocabulary list from Module 1 to talk about some of the terms and elements used in this novel. So first we'll talk about setting, and of course that we know the setting was in a late 1970s, 1980s, early 1980s London. We know that the main character, or the protagonist, if you will, a person who might be the hero or the heroine, the person of main focus is Winston Smith. Now we know Winston Smith works for the Big Brother, or the party, if it will, and what they had done was use technology to inhibit the information that was going to the general public. One way they were able to do that was to change dates, change occurrences, pretty much change any event that had happened. They could tailor it. That was part of Winston Smith's actual job, was to go in and look at a record and modify it that it would still promote the same propaganda that the party was trying to distribute out to the general public. So the propaganda, of course, being the ideal or the principles that that organization stood behind or represented. We can also look at some of the imagery, as Orwell talked about the different characters that were being introduced, the way that the city was laid out, the way the room was laid out, where Winston stayed. It was very, very vivid. We talked about the telescreen, where everything was located inside the apartment. You talk about the canteen, the cafeteria area, the walls being gritty, the way that they smelled. He talked about the trays themselves being greasy, the smell of the gin all the time, where the cigarettes smelled. He was very, very good at placing you inside of each scene as he described it, so you could really get a feel for exactly what Winston was experiencing at each moment in time as we were going through this novel. As you guys know, if you did get a chance to read this, the party, or Big Brother, whatever this entity was very much totalitarian, which means that they were in control of every facet of everyday life for every one of their citizens. And again, you can see that with telescreens. You can see that with them telling them when to get up, when to work out, their exercise, or their jerks, as it were. Him trying to hide his facial expressions from the telescreen, making sure that he wasn't found out by elevated heart rate, or a look of distress, or something else occurring in his facial expression or his body movement that would give him away or give an alarm. He talked about several other individuals who he worked with, the girl with the black hair, O'Brien, several people that you could see that made him uncomfortable, but he was unable to show those emotions because he was worried about, Big Brother or the thought police. I thought it was really interesting as I read through this novel, the whole concept of thought police. How is it that you could actually police someone's thought pattern? But with the way that Orwell described the circumstances, you could see that if it even appeared as though you were having independent thought, or you were thinking away from what was being given to you, what was being fed to you, the information, if you thought anything different from that, people were being taken off, they were going missing or being vaporized. And then with the whole being vaporized, they erase every trace of your existence. So it's not only that you disappeared, but then they went back through all the records and destroyed everything as if you never actually lived. So there's a lot of really interesting dynamics going on. The whole theme of this novel is very much of the dystopian future or present for Winston himself. Of course, that's kind of the antithesis of a utopian existence where everything is going well, and people are happy, things are moving forward economically, emotionally, religiously, and all those things. But in a dystopian society, it's all about the plight of humanity. It's about the disease, and it's about the discomfort. It's more about the horrors and the negative aspects of society that are being lived in everyday life. So you see that with the I can't remember the name of the other group of individuals, started with the P. Now it just escapes me, but it's kind of like the commoner, people who didn't fully subscribe to the ideals of the party, but weren't made to either. This is an area that was even more impoverished than those who worked for the organization. They lived in very, very meager existence, substandard housing, but then you had people who were in even worse shape, who were, not able to eat sometimes. They were working long hours. They were not being able to afford shelter. They didn't have shoes. So, this is a very high crime rate, drugs, all those things that we see that accompany poverty. And that was their everyday existence. So you can see the different dynamics that were playing out in this novel. But what I found was interesting, and I think I talked about it in one of the discussion posts, was no one was actually free. And I feel strongly that was part of the point of the novel. Was, even one of their slogans was something about slavery is freedom, I believe, is something to that effect. And even Winston, who was living above the commoner, wasn't free. He was under constant surveillance. Everybody who worked there was under constant surveillance. They didn't live in really nice homes. They weren't the elite, if the elite even existed. So just some things to think about. But Orwell did a great job of moving you from one example to another, from one set of circumstances to another, from one event to another, to really give you an idea of what it would be like to have lived in a society under such strict totalitarian rules. So that's just my quick overview, some literary elements. Thanks for watching, guys, and good luck to everybody in the rest of the class. Take it easy.